Hey everybody, Derek from BOM Socks with another day of BOM Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ one bite at a time. So we're concluding our week here as we've kind of focused on the idea of what happens when things don't quite go the way you'd hoped, as we've learned from Ruth, as we learned from Boaz, and as we learned from Hannah. Today we are going to learn from the young boy Samuel in chapter 3 of 1 Samuel. Now, many of you are familiar with this story. As Samuel is in the temple, his mother promised him to the Lord. She goes, if you'll give me a boy, a man-child, then he's going to serve in the temple. The Lord did. And so Samuel is serving in the temple with Eli the priest. Now, if you can picture the scenario here, Samuel's asleep, Eli's asleep, it's late at night, and all of a sudden Samuel hears a voice, just simply calling him by name, saying, Samuel. And he answers, here am I. Now, verse number 5, it says, he ran to Eli, here am I, for thou calledst me. And he said, I called not. Go back to sleep, okay? Verse 6, again, the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel arose, went to Eli, here am I, thou didst call me. And he answered, I didn't call you. My son, go lie down. Now, verse 7 is kind of interesting. It says, Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed to him. So here's a young boy trying to still understand how to hear the voice of the Lord. Verse 8, the Lord called Samuel a third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, here am I, for thou didst call me. Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child. And so Eli says, go back to sleep. If it happens again, this is the Lord, and I want you to listen to him. So, verse number 10, the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And then Samuel answered, speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Now, I love verse number 11. The Lord said to Samuel, behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. It's like, you're going to recognize there's going to be some amazing stuff that's going to be happening, and you're going to be a part of it. Now, as you go through this, you go to the very end of the chapter, and one of the coolest verses, it says, verse 19, Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. I remember I had someone ask me, they said, now when it says, did not let any of his words fall to the ground, they said, is that Samuel? Is that the Lord? And I said, maybe it's both. And what I figured was, and this is what I've put in my notes right here, the Lord didn't let any of Samuel's words fall to the ground because Samuel didn't let any of the Lord's words fall to the ground. And so how important it is in our lives to understand, to hear the voice of the Lord and to recognize the voice of the Lord. Many of you are familiar with these awesome messages that the apostles and prophets and church leaders gave called Hear Him, as President Nelson has encouraged us to hear the voice of the Lord with that hashtag Hear Him. You go out to YouTube, you follow that hashtag. There's some wonderful videos that the church has put together for that. You're familiar with them. I love that every single one of them are different, which shows you that the Lord's going to work differently for every person. But he does have the pattern that, again, we talked about this yesterday, ask and you shall receive, but you've got to learn how the voice of the Lord works in your life. One of my favorite quotes that I love when it talks about hearing the voice of the Lord, it's actually in Preach My Gospel, and it's from Boyd K. Packer, and it's under the section of how do I hear and recognize the voice of the Spirit. It says, the Spirit does not get our attention by shouting or shaking us with a heavy hand. Rather, it whispers. It caresses so gently that if we're preoccupied, we may not feel it at all. Occasionally, it will press just firmly enough for us to pay heed, but most of the time, if we do not heed the gentle feeling, the Spirit will withdraw and will wait until we come seeking and listening and say in our manner and expression, like Samuel of ancient times, speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. If we can get to a point where we can be able to hear the voice of the Lord and recognize him, and then we can respond by saying, yes, what would you like me to do? What would thou have me do? That's an important thing to understand, especially when you're going through all of these difficult things and things are not going your way. So I want to kind of put together this whole week back into kind of a little perspective right here as we started off the week talking about, okay, what happens? How do we respond when things do not work out the way we'd hoped? Because these stories of Hannah and Ruth, they all go with that idea because things didn't turn out the way that they had hoped. But these are stories of faith, and these are stories of courage, and they're stories of happy endings. So just by way of review, what to do when things don't quite turn out as you'd hope they would. Now, this is not meant to be prescriptive, and it's not meant to be exhaustive at all. These are just some ideas. So from Ruth, what do? We stay loyal to God and our covenants. We hold fast to what we we know until additional knowledge comes. From Boaz, please remember we have a Redeemer who has purchased us. Jesus Christ will restore, he will recompense, and he will repair. From Hannah, we learn to ask and we shall receive. And if you don't get what you ask for, hold tight because something even better is coming. I believe that. From Samuel, like we just mentioned, learn how to hear him and recognize the voice of the Lord in your life. He knows how to answer and how to teach you what you need to learn. So make sure that we're not distracted through this crazy world that we live in. Anyway, I hope that message helps you out. I hope this whole week has helped you gain a little bit of perspective. And again, I need to learn this message too. I don't have this perfected. I still struggle with this as well, but it's something to understand from the scriptures. If we can learn how to respond when things don't go our way, I think we're going to find ourselves trusting in the Lord more, fearing him a little bit less, and holding tight to those things that the Lord has asked us to do. And I'm grateful for that, and I know that's true. Thanks for watching. Thanks so much for subscribing, and thanks so much for sharing these messages. We're so grateful that you do that. And as always, please go check out our amazingly comfortable gospel-themed socks at bombsocks.com. And you guys have a great week. Godspeed. We'll see you. Bye-bye.